And thank you for this opportunity. It was very interesting to listen to the previous two speakers, and it's actually motivated me to go on. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. So just to tie in with Tiki again, and thank you for Tiki for explaining the Sustainable Development Goals, and that has definitely been our focus, and we've tried to tick all 17 of them. We are still struggling with number 14, life underwater, but I'm sure when our projects start, we will be able to tick that box as well. So what we are looking at in our big mandate is to take the current linear economy where we just take, make and dispose, to actually make sure that we, when we make something, we can recycle it and keep using it and keeping it in the system. So using natural elements and renewable energy to ensure that. Next slide, please. So just a very quick background. In 2017, there was a realization in the mining community as well as in national government that there is not a lot of collaboration between public and private stakeholders. And this, they realized, is really a problem because the private sector can't implement the legislation that is sometimes very impractical and is not focused on sustainable development. And this conversation started in 2017, and it's been hugely successful to address the environmental, social, and economic challenges that we are facing, and we're actually going to face it even quicker due to the fact the pressure that's on coal and due to climate change and the whole feeling on renewable energy and the push to actually go to renewable energy. And then the big thing that was a problem, especially in the upper olifants, which leads to the lower olifants and then into Limpopo and then cross-border into Mozambique, was mine water management. Because if there's bad water quality in the upper olifants, it affects the whole olifants basin as well as the Limpopo basin. So that was one of our big focus areas. And then this collaboration coming through is joint projects and initiatives, because one mine can't rectify 150 years worth of legacy on its own. And water also doesn't have boundaries. It has an effect on everybody around you. So that's why the whole way of looking at things just on one mine has gone to a regional push, and then actually holding hands with national and provincial and municipalities to actually solve this problem. Next slide, please. So I can't say this enough, and thanks to Tiki as well, this is absolutely fundamental to have a success in any project, is collaboration. Next, please. So this is the collaboration that we've managed to come to after 3.5 years. And we've got our funding sponsors, which was Anglo, Eskom, Glencore, South 32, Exxaro, and Sasol, which was the big mining companies in the upper olifants. And then we've got a really good relationship with national government, the Department of Water Affairs, Mineral Resources, and then, which is very special, is the good relationship we actually had with Mpumalanga, or having with the Mpumalanga provincial government. And then other partners includes the Minerals Council, and as Lynette mentioned, we were actually a working group from a Strategic Water Partnership Network, which is a WRG 2030 initiative from the World Bank. And they realized that mine water and industrial water needs to have its own identity to actually be a success. And we're hosted by the NEPAD Business Foundation, and we have support from the Water Research Commission. And we really have been very privileged to have these other members coming on board. Environmental Affairs is strongly supporting us now. The Department of Agriculture has seen the value. I will talk about a project that we're actually doing with the support of the Department of Agriculture, the DTI, Coltech is an association that actually looks at technologies, and we've got a good relationship with them where we actually take the studies that has been done in the laboratory and actually see if we can actually take them into practice and actually onto commercial scale. Then the International Council for Mining and Metals is very interested in what we're doing in South Africa. And we are at the forefront of this. There has been international companies that has closed their mines successfully, but not with an economic uplifting focus. So the ICMM is very interested to see, and they've given a lot of support. Then lots of people smile when they see the WWF because you know, WWF and mines is not normally said in the same sentence. But because the way that we're looking at solving this problem, we has taken hands with WWF to actually ensure conservation and biodiversity in these projects as well. Next slide. Then thanks to Anglo American and their forward thinking, they developed the green engine. So basically what they took is they took this hypothetical circular economy and they actually put real projects to it to actually really make sense and to actually give us something tangible that we can actually start investigating. So I know this is not a new concept, but it does make the picture very clear. And it's given us a really good understanding of what needs to happen, especially in the area that we work with. You know, if you start looking at the problem, you suddenly realize that tires in the mining industry was becoming a real problem. And there was no facility that was looking at the pyrolysis of tires. And it's a huge opportunity for job creation. Renewable energy, especially if you think about Mpumalanga, we've got the distribution network. Gauteng is close by, so we've got the market. So that's what they've realized in the Northern Cape. The Northern Cape may have the sun, but they're struggling to actually get that power to the users and actually distribute it, where Mpumalanga is the obvious choice for that. Mpumalanga has always been the breadbasket of South Africa, especially now when with climate change, where the western side of the country is actually getting drier, the focus has moved to the eastern side. So with coal mining slowing down, Mpumalanga can become the breadbasket of South Africa again. And just on that note, I just want to tell you something very interesting. We noticed when we did the spatial analysis that obviously where there's coal, there's very fertile soil. So in one of our projects, an accident happened and some coal dust was sprayed on some crops, and the farmer was very worried. And luckily we had a relationship with the University of Pretoria and we could get them on site, and they just said, just wait, you will see, just clean off the leaves. And when actually the crop matured, the crop was actually 1 meter higher and the mealie is stronger. So we just need to change the way that we think about things. Thanks. Next slide, please. So this is a very busy slide. I need a lot of time to explain this. It just summarizes very well what we are trying to do. So we recognized what the problem was. That coal mining in the past 150 years had a significant environmental and social impact. And I think everybody realizes that and admits that. It's just how we're going to deal with it. And then there is and I mean, this is what everybody in South Africa is talking about, is the just transition. What is going to happen to the people that is reliant on these mines and power stations that's closing down? So we have to focus on that, and people are realizing that they have to step up. And due to there is, as you all know, last year we had Mpumalanga, there was lots of community unrest. And the focus and the talks between the public and private institutions has been strengthened. And I mean, I have to say, even under lockdown, we've had amazing conversations between public and private institutions to make that happen. So the problem, I think, has been well defined, and we could look at how we're actually going to solve it. So the MWCB's value proposition was a facilitated collaborative platform. And that has been really, really successful. I think the mindset has changed, that people are wanting to work together to one goal and not everybody putting in their own way. And then obviously the realization was there that the mine can't do it on their own, or the communities can't do it on their own. They have to get together and share the cost. And I mean, that also gives the economies of scale to actually make these projects sustainable. Because if you don't have economies of scale, or you can't get into a value chain, or you don't have a market, it's very difficult on your own. And then just tying in with the WRG 2030 initiatives, where we've got a 17% water deficit that we're going to have in 2030. Mine water can now be seen as a resource. I will talk to you about one of the projects that we're actually doing, which has been very successful. So the outcomes is communities that's not reliant on mining or traditional energy. So just changing the whole way of how communities work, and that they're independent, and the whole thing of social license. At the moment, I'm sure you're all aware that the mines feel, well, the communities feel they don't have a social license to operate, and that is definitely changing. The focus is changing on that. And then regional, the whole aspect of regional land reform and water management, and to ensure sustainable projects. So this is what we're looking at. So we've identified areas that we would like to bring into this whole green cycle. So ICT, I mean, if you want to ask questions on how we can do that, but I'm just quickly going to mention, so we're looking at ICT, we're looking at fit for purpose mine water, then definitely renewable energy, skills development and training is very, very important, and then agricultural projects and industrial projects. Next, please. So how are we going to eat this elephant? I'm not going to go into detail. I just put this slide in to let you know that a lot of thought has gone into this. And how do you eat an elephant? It's bite by bite. So that's what we've done here, is we've got different phases with different focuses. It starts with what is the legal environment? What is the community environment? What is the commitments that the miners made in their EMPRs, in their SLAs, right through to actually getting a closure certificate and actually handing over these successful projects to communities. So there's different terms that you can use. You can use just transition, you can use integrated mine closure, you can use water, energy, food, job nexus, but they all have the same goal, is to make sure that communities is sustainable and has dignity. Next, please. So the overall objective of the Mine Water Coordinate body was to provide a collaborative platform where any member can actively contribute to sustainable mine closure through the use of mine water, mine land, and infrastructure. And that was actually, it sounds very logical, but it's actually quite revolutionary if you actually look at our mine closure legislation in South Africa, which currently is saying, fill your hole up, plant some grass, lock your gate, make sure it's safe, and then monitor. So we've moved a lot in 3.5 years, and DMRE and the Department of Water Affairs, unfortunately, due to lockdown, these new regulations is not yet available, but I spoke to them last week, and both of them hopefully will release it soon, which will then embrace the whole concept of sustainable development, that the land can be used, the water can be used, obviously under very strict regulations, and there will be a lot of monitoring. But the monitoring we see as a huge opportunity for the youth, to get the youth involved with ICT. So all of this, we've just opened up so much opportunity to do this. Next slide, please. So we had 3 mandates under phase 1, which was a regional water model, a regional economic model, and then a regional sustainable closure model. So we followed the ICMM catchment guideline, which it was very important to actually look at where is the water, what is the water quality, and how much water there is, because it doesn't matter what project you do. If you do not have water of a suitable quality and you don't have enough, you cannot have a sustainable project. So we have got a very good understanding now of the upper Olifants, of where's the water, what is the water, and how much of the water. So, and then we also linked the water to the soil possibility. So there's a wonderful system that was developed by the WRC and the DWS that you can pair the two, and you can actually say, okay, there we can plant wheat, there we can plant soya. And it's so we know what is the possibilities before we go to the communities and say, listen, this is the water, this is the soil, this is the climate, this is what we can produce. Next, please. So we had 5 workshops regarding the regional economic model. And with all the people that sat on the workshops, these were the 5 socioeconomic development projects that we identified as that we can use the mine water as an enabler. So that was how we put it in the first place. But like I said, it's a circular economy. So we can't start with agriculture without the ICT. You have to have energy, because the biggest cost of water treatment is energy. So if you can have renewable energy that's relatively cheap, your cost of treating the water comes down significantly. The other thing that's amazing that happened because we now have water is that for the first time ever, we could produce a winter crop in the Highveld, which changes the whole economy of that area. And then waste, the big focus on waste and actually using it as an opportunity. If you look what they can actually reuse tires for at the moment, it's amazing. From roof tiles to making sidewalks and roads. There's also amazing stuff that they can do with plastic. And that's how we actually brought other companies on board and made it broader than just the mining industry, because Coca-Cola and Tiger brands were very interested, because their problem is they get criticized for their packaging and for their bottles. And so we can then broaden and actually bring in all the players to become part of the value chain. So it just opened up so many doors. And then while we were talking, just an interesting story of Winston Churchill, that was a journalist in South Africa at the time of the Boer War, was hidden in one of the mines in Mpumalanga before they got him back to England. So you can develop a whole tourism industry as well, and cultural heritage sites. And so it just opened so many possibilities. Next slide, please. So the regional sustainable closure model, we took all the information that we gathered and we decided that we can't focus on all 25 management units. So we've identified 5 units where there is available excess mine water. Also, we had to take into account that when the mines close, the whole water regime will change and the water quality will change. So we had to do predictive modeling to see, is that water actually going to be available? Will the quality be? So we had to make sure that that water will be available for the next 20, 25 years. Then would that water be fit for purpose? And fit for purpose, I mean anything from industrial to agricultural to potable for human consumption. We wanted to have a collaboration in each one of these management units, so there had to be more than one member present in the area. And then also very much with the community buy-in, because we've seen in previous projects, if the community is not excited and not involved right from the beginning, these projects does not work. So these were the areas where we had a very good understanding of the community and the community needs. And also we needed to understand that what the community need and what the community want and what is possible is very different. And then we also had a focus on the areas that if we make an improvement in those areas, that will have an impact on the whole upper Olifants as well as downstream and improve the quality of water. So these were the management units selected. 2 of the management units, we've actually got projects that's quite relatively far advanced, and then we're in the beginning stages of the 3 others. So I'm just quickly going to go through the 2 projects that's at an advanced stage. Next slide, please. So it's a very exciting project. It's been going for 5 years with the director from the DWS, and this is where collaboration just worked absolutely so well. So as you can see, it's a collaboration between the University of Pretoria, Water and Sanitation, Agriculture, WRC, Anglo-American, Exara, South 32, Mafubi Cold, and then a private commercial farmer, Biestepan Boerdery, which was just magnificent to work, and it's really a wonderful project. So in the top right-hand corner, you can see the pivot on unmined land, and then you can actually see the crop here in the photos. And then especially last year, because they had a huge hailstorm in January just before they actually had to harvest, and Biestepan Boerdery under the irrigation was still profitable because the mealies were stronger and healthier, and they could actually survive the hailstorm, where the land that wasn't irrigated had actually had losses. Next slide, please. I see I'm running out of time. So next slide. So what we're doing at the Brocksback Pollution Control Works, due to the abandoned mines, if you look on the left-hand side on that map, at the top right-hand side, you've actually got abandoned mines and dumps, and that is causing huge acid mine drainage to flow into the Brocksback. So in 1997, under the Fani Botha Accord, the DWS actually built the Brocksback to make sure that the water that's going into the Brocksback is actually of a better quality. Unfortunately, due to lots of factors, it is currently not functioning, and that water is straight going into the Brocksback with a pH of 3. And we've got photographs of children playing in this water, and it's actually heartbreaking. So once again, with collaboration between people, we have realized that we can actually, and the 2 wastewater treatment works, and yesterday I was in a seminar where people actually called and said it's not a wastewater treatment work, it's actually a water resource facility, because it can, if the wastewater treatment work works optimally, it can be a resource rather than waste. And that's why we have to really shift the way that we think about waste, that it's actually an opportunity. So what we're trying to do is with all our partners is actually looking at this whole management unit and trying to find a management unit solution with the Brocksback, with the mines, because Kromdraai is actually closing as well, and Greenside that's sitting to the north is also closed. And there's a huge community, as you can see in the middle of that map, that has developed, that is dependent on this water. And then Imalagleni is sitting in the bottom right-hand corner. So we've done some scope of work studies, and we're in the pre-feasibility stage. And actually, I can say that there's a lot of interest for funding to actually see how we can, because then we can take that model to all other management units, and not just in Mpumalanga. I mean, there's similar problems in Limpopo, there's similar problems in the Northwest, Northern Cape, as well as the Far West Rand with the gold mines. So thank you very much.